In 2025, motorcycle sales dropped 5.6% across North America. But that doesn't explain why some bikes just never sold in the first place. Some were overpriced, some were misunderstood, and some were just plain bad ideas from the start. You've seen bikes vanish from the showroom without a trace and thought, wait, did anyone even buy that? The answer? Almost nobody. These are the bikes that flopped, stalled, or ghosted out of the dealership like an awkward Tinder date. At the end, I'll show you the one that deserved to fail the least, but still did. Number 1. Suzuki GSX 250R. On paper, this should have been a slam dunk. Small displacement sport bike, friendly ergonomics, Japanese reliability, and a price that looks beginner friendly. In reality, it landed in the worst possible no man's land. The GSX 250R is heavy for its class, slow by even entry-level standards, and somehow less exciting than bikes that cost the same or less. You're looking at around 25 horsepower, which wouldn't be a deal breaker if the bike felt lively. It doesn't. It feels muted, flat, and oddly disconnected, like Suzuki tried so hard to make it safe that they removed the fun. What really killed it is timing. When this bike hit showrooms, competitors were offering more power, less weight, or better tech. The Ninja 400 outsold it by a massive margin, and Yamaha's R3 consistently doubled or tripled its monthly sales in several markets. In some U.S. regions, dealers reported single-digit annual sales for the GSX 250R, not monthly, yearly. Beginners didn't buy it because it felt boring. Experienced riders ignored it because it wasn't cheap enough to justify the compromise. And Suzuki quietly stopped talking about it, which tells you everything you need to know. Number 2. Harley-Davidson LiveWire. Harley's first electric motorcycle was bold, futuristic, and a complete sales flop. The LiveWire made headlines for innovation, but buyers didn't show up. In fact, Harley sold fewer than 400 units in the U.S. during its first year, a microscopic number for a company with such massive reach. The problem? It's a Harley that doesn't feel like a Harley. No rumble, no range, and a price tag that could buy you 2 gas bikes and a long vacation. At launch, it was over $30,000. And even after Harley spun off LiveWire into its own brand and dropped the price, interest stayed flat. The real kicker is the range, officially listed around 95 to 150 miles depending on how you ride, but real-world numbers often come in much lower, especially on highways where aerodynamics matter. Add to that limited charging infrastructure and long refill times, and you've got a high-tech toy that doesn't fit real rider needs. Dealers reported units collecting dust, and some even refused to stock it. Harley tried to rebrand LiveWire as a lifestyle EV brand, but unless charging stations grow on trees and prices drop in half, this thing's headed for museum status. Number 3. Honda NM4 Voltus. The Honda NM4 Voltus is what happens when a designer watches too much anime and someone in management says, "Sure, why not?" The bike looked like a rejected Batmobile side project. Aggressive lines, giant front fairing, and a weird step-through meets cruiser vibe that confused everyone. Riders didn't know whether to call it a scooter, a cruiser, or a space shuttle. And the price didn't help. When it was launched in the US at around $11,000, buyers expected premium performance. Instead, they got a repurposed N700 engine making just 61 horsepower, a weird feet-forward seating position, and the personality of a mute robot. Not to mention the automatic DCT transmission that alienated traditionalists and failed to impress newcomers. Sales never took off, especially in the American market. You could find lightly used Voltus models with under 2,000 miles selling for half the original price within a year. That's not depreciation, that's rejection. Honda pulled the plug pretty quickly, but even years later, the NM4 remains a cautionary tale. Just because something looks like it belongs in Akira doesn't mean anyone actually wants to ride it to work. Number 4. BMW R18. BMW thought they could break into the American cruiser market by going big. Really big. The R18 has a massive 1802cc boxer engine, the largest BMW's ever made. and styling meant to rival Harley-Davidson's Heritage line. But instead of eating into Milwaukee's market share, mostly ate into showroom space. The problem wasn't power, it was purpose. At nearly 800 pounds wet, the R18 felt more like a display piece than a rider's bike. And for a brand known for performance touring and advanced tech, this throwback cruiser offered neither comfort nor innovation. No wind protection, no storage, just a huge engine and shiny fenders. Sales never matched expectations. In 2022, BMW sold fewer than 4,500 units of the R18 in the US, compared to over 100,000 Harley cruisers sold the same year. Even loyal BMW fans scratched their heads. The bike didn't align with what BMW riders usually want, and Harley riders weren't convinced to jump brands. It's a rare case of a premium brand trying to be retro cool and missing both audiences. The R18 is undeniably beautiful, but beauty doesn't sell when the ergonomics suck and the vibe doesn't match the brand. Number 5. Yamaha Bolt. The Yamaha Bolt was supposed to be Japan's answer to the Harley Sportster, a simple, raw, air-cooled cruiser with bobber vibes and a V-twin growl. And for a hot minute, it kinda worked. But then Yamaha forgot to keep evolving it, and buyers forgot it even existed. It's not a bad bike. The 942cc engine is reliable, the styling's clean, and it has that minimalist appeal. But compared to modern competition like the Honda Rebel 1100, which offers more power, better tech, and rider aids, the Bolt started to feel ancient. No traction control, no ABS on older models, no significant updates since launch, just rinse and repeat. In 2023, Yamaha Bolt sales dropped below 2,000 units in North America, making it one of the worst-selling mid-size cruisers in its class. Meanwhile, the Rebel 1100 outsold it by nearly 4-1. The cramped ergonomics don't help either. Taller riders feel like they're riding a toy, and customizing it is more limiting than on a Harley. It's not bad, it's just forgettable. And in today's market, being forgettable is a death sentence. The Bolt didn't explode, it just faded away. Number 6. Kawasaki W800. On paper, the Kawasaki W800 should have been a retro dream. Classic styling, upright ergonomics, and that gorgeous bevel gear drive. It oozes vintage charm and nails the throwback look better than most. But the problem? It costs too much for a bike that delivers too little, and buyers noticed. The W800 was meant to compete with Triumph's Bonneville series, but it shows up to a gunfight with a butter knife. Its 773cc parallel twin only makes about 46 horsepower, which might have been okay if the bike weighed less, but it's a chunky 496 pounds wet. That's before you add saddlebags, a passenger, or a full tank. In 2022, it was one of the least registered standard bikes in the US, according to MIC data. That same year, dealers were quietly discounting leftover models by $1,500 to $2,000 just to move inventory. The W800 doesn't ride poorly, it just rides like something built to look old and priced like something that should feel new. In a market filled with power-hungry, tech-savvy retro bikes, the W800's a museum piece. And unfortunately, nobody's buying tickets. Number 7. Moto Guzzi V85 TT. Moto Guzzi bet big on the V85 TT, a retro-themed adventure bike with air-cooled charm and Italian quirkiness. It looked cool, had shaft drive, decent off-road chops, and a genuinely different vibe from the usual ADV suspects. But in a world dominated by GS's and Africa twins, that quirky charm turned into a hard sell. Despite glowing reviews from niche outlets, the V85 TT couldn't get traction in North America. According to 2023 dealer reports, Moto Guzzi sold fewer than 400 units in the US, across all V85 variants. Compare that to BMW moving 17,000 plus R1250 GS models in the same time frame, and the picture becomes clear. The bike isn't bad, but it suffers from an ADV identity crisis. Too heavy for real dirt, not powerful enough for serious road touring, and too pricey to be a casual commuter. And then there's the brand itself. Moto Guzzi lacks the dealer footprint, brand trust, and resale security of its German or Japanese rivals. It tried to be a middleweight GS with vintage soul. Instead, it became a cult favorite collecting dust. In the real world, that doesn't sell motorcycles. It just creates eBay listings. Number 8. Triumph Speed Twin 900. When Triumph renamed the beloved Street Twin to the Speed Twin 900, they didn't just update the badge, they confused their entire customer base. It sounds minor, but branding missteps like this can tank a bike's momentum fast. And that's exactly what happened. The Street Twin was Triumph's best-selling modern classic for years. But after the rebrand in 2023, dealer sales dropped by nearly 30% in key markets like the US and UK. Why? Because buyers now can't tell the difference between the Speed Twin 900 and the more expensive Speed Twin 1200, and most just opt for the bigger one to be safe. It's not just about the name. The Speed Twin 900 is stuck in an awkward middle ground. Not quite beginner-friendly, not powerful enough for experienced riders, and priced high enough to make people look elsewhere. It's got classic styling, but lacks the customization cult that fuels Royal Enfield. It's got decent torque, but loses out to Yamaha's MT-07 in performance and fun. Triumph fixed what wasn't broken, and ended up with a great bike that nobody knows how to want anymore. Number 9. Royal Enfield Continental GT650. It's the cooler-looking sibling nobody wants to ride. The Royal Enfield Continental GT650 was supposed to be the cafe racer revival we didn't know we needed until people actually sat on it. Despite sharing the same engine as the wildly popular Interceptor 650, which became Royal Enfield's global breakout, the GT650 consistently lags in sales. In the US and UK combined, Interceptor units outsell the GT by almost 3-1, and the reason isn't mechanical, it's physical. The aggressive riding position is the big killer. Clip-on bars, rear set pegs, and a forward lean make it look vintage track ready. Feel cramped, stiff, and uncomfortable for anything more than a coffee run. Add in mediocre suspension and no wind protection, and you've got a commuter's nightmare disguised as a style piece. It's also less customizable than the Interceptor, which has become the darling of the modding scene. The GT looks good stock, but that's about it. You buy it, you pose with it, then you list it for sale after one backache. Cool? Yes. Practical? Not even close. That's why it stays on showroom floors. Number 10. Zero SRS. You'd think a fully electric sport bike with a 0 to 60 time under 4 seconds would be flying off the shelves. But the Zero SRS has become one of the loneliest bikes in showrooms. Despite all the hype, Zero's US sales in 2023 were under 4,000 units across their entire lineup, and the SRS made up only a small fraction of that. The price tag is a big part of the problem. At nearly 20 grand, it competes with high-end leader bikes that are faster, lighter, and come with decades of brand heritage. Meanwhile, the SRS asks you to trust a newer company with limited dealer support and a product that still carries range anxiety like a backpack. Speaking of which, max range is around 161 miles in the city and closer to 80 to 100 on highways if you're riding like a normal person. And recharging? You'll be waiting unless you fork out extra for the rapid charger module. The riding experience is smooth and silent, maybe too silent. For many riders, that lack of visceral feedback makes the thrill disappear. It's a premium bike with premium tech, but barely anyone's biting. Number 11. Benelli Leoncino 500. The Leoncino had all the ingredients of a breakout hit. Middleweight size, stylish neo-retro looks, and an approachable price tag. But in practice, it fell flat. Benelli's US market share sits under 1%, and the Leoncino remains a showroom ghost, often ignored in favor of better-known alternatives. The biggest problem is the badge. Benelli used to be Italian royalty. Now it's a subsidiary of the Qijang Group in China, and that shift in perception scared off a lot of buyers. Add to that the weak dealer network, spotty parts availability, and questionable long-term reliability, and you got a bike people just don't trust. It also doesn't help that the performance is, well, fine. Not thrilling, not awful, just fine. Which, in a world where bikes like the Yamaha MT-07 exist, is a death sentence. The resale value is worse than you'd think, too. Many riders report massive depreciation within the first year. Even fans of the design often admit they wouldn't buy another. For a bike that's supposed to compete on value, it doesn't offer enough confidence to make the gamble worthwhile. Number 12. Husqvarna Svartpilen 401. The Svartpilen 401 had one job: look cool and disrupt the entry-level scene. On paper, it did. It's light, punchy, and drips with cafe post-apocalyptic style. But in reality, it never cracked the top 10 best-selling entry bikes in the US, despite being priced under $6,000. The issue starts with ergonomics. It has the riding triangle of a mini dirt bike, but the suspension of a street fighter and the seat of a medieval punishment device. Beginners found it awkward, and experienced riders didn't take it seriously. It's the kind of bike that almost works until you ride it for more than 20 minutes. Then there's the marketing. Husqvarna, known mostly for chainsaws and off-road machines, suddenly tried to pitch a fashion-forward urban bike without dealer support to back it up. Add to that the fact that KTM already owns it and also makes the Duke 390, which is arguably better in every way, and you got a confused little orphan with nowhere to go. Cute to look at, weird to ride, easy to pass up. It's the kind of bike people ask about but never actually buy. Number 13. Indian FTR 1200. Indian thought it had a hit with the FTR 1200, and honestly it should have been. Flat track inspired, American made, torque heavy V-twin, and a legit alternative to cookie cutter cruisers. But in the real world, FTR sales barely scratched 2% of Indian's total unit sales in 2023. It's a boutique niche within a niche. The problem? It doesn't know who it's for. It's not quite a cruiser, not quite a naked bike, and definitely not a flat track racer like they claim. Early versions had awful fueling, stiff suspension, and an awkwardly tall seat height that alienated shorter riders. Even after updates, the stigma stuck. Meanwhile, Indian's core audience, traditional cruiser buyers, didn't want it. And sport bike riders already have a dozen lighter, faster options that don't weigh 500 plus pounds. The FTR became the motorcycle version of an indie film that critics love, but nobody goes to see. It looks great in the showroom, sounds great in YouTube reviews, and disappears from memory the moment you ride something else. Which is why dealerships quietly push them to the back, next to the dusty Scout bobbers and leftover apparel. Motorcycles don't fail because they're ugly or slow. They fail because no one connects with them. Some of these bikes had great ideas. Some were even technically solid. But if buyers don't trust the brand, can't justify the price, or don't see themselves riding it every day, the bike dies on the showroom floor. And Consumer Reports data back it up. Models like the GSX 250R or NM4 Voltus barely register in resale markets, and several on this list have less than 1% market share in their class. If you're shopping, don't just look at specs. Look at who's actually buying and why they aren't. Because the worst bike isn't the slowest one. It's the one nobody wants. Tap subscribe for more brutally honest motorcycle wisdom. No sugarcoating, no marketing fluff, just facts, sarcasm, and bad decisions you won't make again.